Yes. All right, cool. Did that. Oops.
Hey, it's whacking again. Has plenty of reason to do.
I'm gonna record this meeting, so when we get to the part about filing the float plan and stuff like that, I can just send people to watch the video. Yeah, instead of having that discussion over and over.
So we'll be polite in our comments.
Well, no, you can give me hard hitting ones. I've been out there. So, all right, let's see here. Got one more minute. Don Pearson's here. Sweet. Yes, please grab snacks and everything. So. Hey, Don, how's it going?
Good. How are you? Just joining in.
Sounds like we can hear each other and everything. Hey, I've got a slide on maintenance activities and stuff like that. When we get to that, if you want to elaborate on that. Sorry, I didn't preview it for you.
No, that's fine.
So
I wasn't sure I was going to make it tonight or not, so I'm glad I'm able to make it.
all right. Well, it is 7 o'clock, so let's get started on time. So thank you all for being here on time, and I'm sure a couple people will filter in. So welcome to the Renton Sailing Center May meeting. And I got a sort of a fairly longish parade of announcements. Oh, let me see if I can let Anna in. The thing went away. How do I? Well, Anna, your little button went away. Now I don't see how to let you in.
Oh, I'm already here.
You're here. Oh, cool. I did let you in. I probably just punched right over it. Cool. Yay. Welcome. All right. And so make that go away. All right. Cool. All this technology. Baffling. All right. Okay. Open sailing. Well, let's go around and do some introductions. We've got some potential new members here. So I'll go ahead and start, and we'll just go around the room and introduce each other here. So my name's John Patchett. I'm president of the Sailing Center. So yeah, yeah.
My name is Chu. Been club last year. I've been sailing.
I'm Alice here, and we joined together last summer. It was the best thing I've done since last year. And he went to Greece for a 2-week sailing trip, and I myself signed up for Clipper race in 2026. So yeah, I really like the club. Learn a lot here.
That'll be exciting. You'll get lots of training. So all right.
So I'm Carter. Carter, me and Elsa here, we just moved here recently. She had some job at Boeing, and we're looking to get involved here at the Renton Sailing Center. I raced a lot in high school in the gorge in Hood River, Oregon. Sailing for my high school sailing team, racing 420s up there. And so we're really excited to get involved here.
But you can teach us a couple of things on Tuesday night about racing. So
If I win sailing.
there you go. Brian?
Brian, I've been involved in sailing for 10 years. Sure, small boats, after general volunteer.
Yeah.
Sailing is the next way to spend.
Mhm.
I volunteered in about 2 years. I've also been with 2 years. Instructor last year, and then education officer classes. I also like to see.
I'm Ernesto. I I've been a member for a couple of years and I've been going through the Tuesday night races and we're learning a lot. Prior to joining the club, I only sailed two boats and you don't really have to be very skilled to sail two boats. So right now we're learning the proper technique. And the people that I've been going out with are really very supportive and very patient.
Cool. Okay.
I'm Mike, I'm a longtime member of the Trail Dome.
I'm Mike Jacobson, and I've been a member for, I don't know, a number of years now, several, and yeah, 6 or 7. So, and I like to help out and volunteer where I can right now.
Cool.
Julie Jacobson. Another sail.
Awesome. Julie's a good skier too. So we got a couple of folks on Zoom land out there. Anna, you want to start off with your introduction?
Yeah, hi, I'm Anna, and I've been a member since John was a member, so long time ago.
Sounds good. I'm trying to remember. Oh, Dawn is on the Zoom. Dawn, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Don Pearson. I'm the maintenance officer. I've been associated with the Renton Sailing Center for a couple of years. I'm one of the small sailboat instructors and a dock master.
Fantastic. And I think Brett's also on the Zoom there too. So.
Hi, yep, I'm Brett Langlois. I'm down in Graham, Washington. I'm your chief dock master, which means I'm just one of many dock masters that keeps the dock running out there. And I've been a member since probably just after John.
Fantastic. And you guys on Zoom probably didn't see it, but Pietro and Melissa just walked in. You guys want to introduce yourself? We're just finishing up introductions here. Yeah. Just.
And I'm Melissa. I'm trying to learn, but we have a small child, so I'm learning a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people have that challenge around here, but we're looking forward to the young people getting out and sailing the Zests when they get, you know, that probably 8 years of age or something. We're pioneering that lesson this year. Hey, Brett, I've got a slide up on open sailing, so we'll go through the creative announcements. Do you want to cover some of the stuff and anything else that's may even not be on the slide here?
Sure, we have always need lots of dock masters so we can keep the dock open, because that's the only way our beginners and intermediates get a chance to sail. So this year we're doing a little promotion. Any dock master who commits to opening the dock 3 times during the season gets one of these really cool little knives. It's called a Meyerton sailor's tool. It's got like a little thing built in there to help you undo knots. It's got a serrated blade to cut lines and that sort of things. It's pretty neat. And so if you do that, let me know, because you don't have to sign up for your 3 dock master shifts. You just need to tell me that you're going to do 3 during this year. And I think we probably have some intermediate folks that will soon be advanced that might want to get in on that, assuming we can get them to advanced level.
Fantastic. Just let Brett know if you can open up for open sailing. All of our newer sailors will really appreciate that if you can. And then I'm opening up on June 25th next time. And our Sino sailing program, that is our Chinese descent sailors will be out having a barbecue, sort of open house and some open sailing there. So everybody's welcome to join in, but we're going to have a lot of Chinese families out there sailing, which will be really cool. So anyway, that's going to be June 25th. All right, thanks, Brett. Let's see. That's going to be during regular open sailing hours. Yeah. Upcoming lessons, Kat, you want to take this away a little bit? Mm-hmm.
Summer, and for each of those, we'd like to have assistant instructors sailing the boats with new people for the first 2 days. That it's their students' experience and it makes it a lot easier on your instructor. So you're in the volunteer hours, or if in fact the sail like much when that was, and pass it forward, get it forward. Consider to instructor that those classes, and you'll also probably be receiving lots of emails from instructors asking volunteers. So just watch your email events. In particular, John needs 2 more people for this Saturday evening, and I'm also teaching the class next weekend, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Saturday, Sunday. So if you are available and interested, let me know. You don't have to be advanced or even get intermediate, just basically know what you're doing. Be able to sail around the water.
Yep. Mike, were you able to help me Saturday?
Saturday evening.
Evening, 4 to 8.
Yeah.
Yes. Mike. Hamilton. Wait, we got a lot of Mikes and a lot of Dons in the sailing center. And now I'll need 1 more. Anybody else? All right. And then I'll keep calling. So I got till Saturday to fill 1 more spot. So just I'm gonna run down the list. For some of these folks are here, just tell you what days you're helping me out. Friday, Kat, Mark Haddad, Tyler or Emily, Mike Jacobson, and Pietro are helping me Friday. And then on Saturday, Mike Jarvis, Brian Casserly, Mike Jacobson, Chris Volk, and Mike Hamilton are helping me on Saturday. Kat Smith, you're helping me on Sunday. And then Brett, you're helping me on Monday night. All right, cool. Oh, and then you guys should come on Friday and demonstrate capsize recovery, because that'll be one of your requirements for intermediate. So we always do that the very first day of small boat sailing class. So let me know if you guys can make it then, but fetch up at 6 o'clock. We're closed, toed shoes, clothes you can get wet. There's not a place to change at the park right now. So
Yeah, and you said you don't need wetsuit.
yeah, you can wear one for if you want to demonstrate capsize recovery. If you got one, you don't need one, but it's still refreshing.
Yeah.
So. Well, the class will start at 4, but we'll do some introductory sailing to start the class, and then we'll finish up the class with capsize recovery. We'll chalk talk demonstration, and all the students will rotate through along with new members. So yeah,
Want us to film at the beginning?
at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Yeah, let me know if you guys are in. Let me see. Boop. I think that covers that slide. All right. Experience Renton Sailing's coming up on Father's Day. Ann, you want to take this away?
It's coming up, June 8th. There wasn't 4.
Okay. My typo then.
Or you signed up.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yep. Yep. Get that over to Ann. Janice, did you raise your hand there? Yep. Oh. Don W. Yeah. Oh, I am there. Yes, I already said yes. So I'll be happy to skip her all day. Sure. All right. The beloved last Catalina Capri is for sale. If someone needs one for their lake cabin or something like that, we'll give you a deal on it. It's repairable anyway,
It was
so,
sailing last Sunday. And
yes.
people out there had a blast.
I got a centerboard.
Oh, you do? Cool. We can sell it with a new centerboard. I forgot about that. When next time I advertise it, it comes with a brand new centerboard you can swap out. So fantastic. New website's going to be coming here pretty soon. Want a big thank you, especially Ingrid. She's been holding down the fort on our Google Sites website for probably the last 6 or 7 years that we've had that. So, and then Beth and Lauren and our website developer Todd have been working on a new website. So if you want to get a preview of it, it's at live.rentonsailing.org there. So the biggest thing we're going to do with the new website is, and you'll experience this when you go fill out your registration form, is everything's gonna look great. You're gonna fill out all this information and you're gonna put your credit card information, you're gonna hit submit, it's gonna say processing, and then it's gonna, this blank website's gonna pop up and say 404 error. And we can't make it go away with our current payment processes. So we're sort of upgrading everything. So it'll eventually come. So don't get put off when you get, instead of a welcome to Renton Sailing Center message, you'll eventually get that one day, but you're going to get a 404 error. So anyway, welcome anyway. Little construction update down at the park. We have all been invited as of yesterday to come down and watch the new pedestrian bridge get flown in with that giant crane at 6:30 to 9 a.m. So if that's of interest to you, you're welcome to go down there. We don't have any other ETA, like when they're going to finish the construction project and have the bathrooms back open. So plan ahead as you go down there to probably use the bathroom at Ivar's and everything. With the crane, yeah. Like a helicopter. And I get to fetch up at the locks tonight. You'll see it lock through on a barge and all kinds of excitement. Other good news from the Parks Department, after ghosting us for years now, they finally replied and said, oh, we sent your request for permitting assistance for new dock boxes over to our permitting folks and everything. They're going to start working on it now that they're finishing up these other projects at the park. So anyway, that's pretty exciting. I'm sure it'll take a while longer, but there's some potential renderings that Ed put together there of I guess the biggest improvements will be metal sidings, so a bit harder for the minks to shoot their way in there. A roof with a solar panel, so we can have some power down at the dock with some batteries and inverter in there. And I think the biggest improvement we're looking at are some roll-up sort of storage shed kind of doors on them, so you don't have to lift those heavy doors anymore. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Race night still continues all the way through August. I think that last Tuesday in August is the last night we've got light until about 8 o'clock in the evening there. So gather at 5 p.m. to get everything rigged up. We like to have everybody sort of off the dock at 5:30 and hopefully start our first race before 6 o'clock there out on the race course. We still need plenty of people to participate. We're still leaving boats on the dock. It's a ton of fun. We especially need intermediate and advanced people to come out, because one of the things we do is we jigger the crew. So people with a little more experience get to go sailing with people that are a little newer to the sport and everything. Keeps things fair, and everybody's got learning and teaching opportunities there. So we've got a website for reserving or RSVPing for the race, so we can jigger the crews ahead of time. So take a look at that. You just have to get your RSVP in over the weekend before the Tuesday race there. So all right, we have a satellite location. This is exciting. We have subleased a slip at Des Moines Marina. It's B10 for June, July, and August Tyler and Tom are delivering the boat, I think on June 2nd, the Catalina you see in the picture there. And then when the Catalina people take the Catalina cruising up into San Juans this summer, the ranger will get delivered down there. So we're gonna have a boat all summer. All those folks that are signed through Salish Sea are welcome to skipper to boats and encouraged to take all of the members out when they go sailing there. So you can get some experience of what a vessel traffic lane is and what tides are. Not too many currents right around there, but if you probably go around the other side of Vashon Island, you'll run into some currents there. So, and all of the keelboat skippers have covered the moorage fees there. So for the summer, so we'd always do that for the nice to have things, like all the keelboat skippers bought that spinnaker you see for the Catalina. So some of the nice to have things, we sort of all chip in and pay for that. All right, next slide. I've got a lot of announcements today. We usually don't have this many announcements, but with a lot of new members, people have forgotten that and with the water high, that there are hazards in the sailing area. If you look at the chart here, you'll see, batteries are coming out, where it says DOL right there. That means dolphins, and there are dolphins. And right now, not dolphins like porpoises and stuff, but a group of piles. And if you look in the satellite photo here, where all the keelboats are lined up, right between those keelboats, and you can almost see it in the aerial photograph there, there are pilings in between them. This used to be a log booming area. And so those pilings are still there. There's chain around those pilings and in between them, and they hold the keelboats on the moorings there. So, and you got to know where they're at, because right now they are just at the water line and they're hard to see. So understand that they're out there. They are on the chart. And so when you run into something, we're going to ask you, did you look at the chart before you sailed over there? So, and then the other, of course, we're usually on a lee shore because the wind's usually out of the west here. And we've got the log boom. People wind up on a lee shore stuck on the log boom. So keep in mind, we've got all that out there. All right. Okay, life jackets. I recommend that you go read the article that recently came out in 48 Degrees North about the Blakely crew overboard rescue at the Blakely Rock Race this year. There's a real shit show. There people didn't know how to reef their boat. They didn't have reefing gear on it. They didn't reef early enough was the first thing that happened. And then multiple people got thrown off of various boats when the wind started blowing 30 knots or whatever it did. And the biggest problem, they were all wearing life jackets, but their life jacket didn't fit. And I've been on people when I go down to the dock that I've seen a lot of life jackets that don't fit correctly. And so I'm going to do a demonstration here. I'm going to buckle mine here. And your life jacket, you should be able to just barely stick your hand in there. It should be that snug, but where you can still breathe. All right. And life jackets should have leg straps on them. Of course, the ones we have for the Sailing Center don't come with leg straps, but they should fit snug enough that it's not going to come off. So what happened with these people in the Blakely Rock Race didn't have leg straps, and their life jacket was nice and loose and comfy and everything. So when they went in the water, their life jacket went up over their heads. It had this like sort of floating thing up around their head there. And it made it very difficult to get them back on board. So when you see someone and their life jacket's obviously too loose, please don't be ashamed, ask them to snug that down so it's not going to come up over their head if they wind up in water there. So other thing is spring is a good time if you have an inflatable life jacket, go ahead and get that serviced. And there's instructions in one of our recent newsletters. I usually publish it once a year to US Sailing Safety at Sea website. I got a link to there, and they sort of tell you how to service just about every model of inflatable life jacket that's out there. So, all right. And I mean, we're really like sort of one accident from someone not wearing their life jacket correctly, a really bad deal. So, all right, Couple of maintenance notes here, and Don, I didn't give you any preparation for this, but you want to tell us what you know, and I can sort of pick it up from there?
Yeah, sure. Just, I think everybody knows that we have a new motor now for the coach boat, and we've got about 10 hours of time on it. We're about due to take it in, take it off the coach boat and take it in for its early season servicing. We are noticing a couple of issues with it right now. And so, John, I think you were going to take that off today or in the next couple of days and replace it with the
Brian and
Ranger
I
engine.
Yep, wrestled that off, and so the Ranger 24 6 horsepower Tahatsu's on there now. It's not nearly as fast, but it's going to service us while we get that 9.9 serviced.
Okay, good. For the Catalina 27, I guess as you can see there, the windows have been resealed. Extra thanks to Mike Jacobson for the work he did there. Yeah, it's in the process. In the process. Yeah. As you know, many people know, we had a kind of an issue with the J80, a little bit of a collision a few months ago during right after a race, basically. That's all been pretty much repaired except for the bowsprit. We've had to get a new one. That's underway. So we're still without a bowsprit for that. We do have a brand new mainsail that John just put on. There's a shackle at the top of the thing for raising it, with the halyard, and we're going to have to replace that shackle. It's not quite wide enough for what we really need. So that's underway, but there's a brand new mainsail that's being put on. And again, that was purchased by donations from pretty much donations from all the keelboat users. Just yesterday, I think we got a report on the Hunter 170 that I saw a picture of the rudder floating there, essentially right back behind the boat. Seems to be missing a pintle, a little bit of hardware associated with it. Those parts have been reordered. John, do you have a time frame for when those are going to come in?
They said there were at least the pintle, but not the split rings were in stock. So we shouldn't, the supplier is right here in Seattle. So I should see those pretty quickly. And once I get that, then we can probably see if we've got the right size split ring to go in there. So laying around.
Okay, good. The RS Venture is a brand new boat, and it's pretty popular, obviously. For one reason, it's a brand new boat and everybody wants to get on it and try it. We've got about 10 or so people that have been checked out on the boat now. It's out on one of the more sitting there right next to the Hunter 170. The one issue that we've had with it basically is that the mainsail, when you raise it with the halyard, it's really difficult to raise it. And we've been trying to sort out what's causing all the friction inside the bolt rope, basically, goes up the mast there, and how that's associated with the halyard and what the halyard's doing. I think John sort of sorted out what's going on there. I'm still a little bit confused as to how the halyards get routed around the sheave up at the top of the mast, but we're going to get that squared away relatively soon here. And then there won't be really any issues associated with the use of the RS Venture. Everybody will be able to take it out. Is there anything you want to add to that, John?
Yeah, I think as is, you can still sail it. Just understand that what happened is they, instead of passing the part of the halyard that goes through the center of the mast, it's currently going through the luff track. And so both the bolt rope and the halyard are going through the luff track. It got delivered that way. We didn't notice it. And
yeah, how crazy.
And they cut the mast exit, halyard exit point in the wrong part of the mast, which is shocking. But I guess, nothing surprises me anymore. But anyway, you can still sail it. Just understand that getting it up the last little bit is going to be really hard. And getting it down the first couple of feet is going to be really hard. So, but it's not going to hurt anything. So, yep.
Yeah, we'll fix it. We'll get it working. Even if we have to take the mast off and reroute the halyard the correct way, we'll get that working. And the one thing that's not mentioned, yeah,
yeah,
it's got to be make it easier. That's fine. Anything else on the Venture?
No, I think we're just still awaiting the new sail cover for it. So once we get the sail cover, you'll roll the sail from the center of the sail like we do on the Vision, but you'll leave the clue and the tack and all the reefing lines attached, and then slash it to the mast and put a cover on it. So it'll make it a little easier to get underway and everything. And
Yeah,
and put
that's
it away.
certainly the goal. Make it really easy to just get out to the boat, get on the boat, take the cover off and raise the main.
Yep.
So, like you say, all the reefing and the outhaul will all be attached. So it'll be relatively straightforward to get going. One item that's not on here is the quest. We've had a small issue with the quest.
I've got
when
some
you put
slides on that. I can
Oh, you do?
cover.
Okay. Well, we'll hold that off then, and you can talk that.
Okay.
And that's, I think you covered everything that I would have mentioned anyway. Thank you.
Yeah. I was going to mention on the new J80 sale, until we get that new halyard spliced onto the new shackle and get that reeved, that's going to be on me, I guess, unless anyone else is good at doing splices with Dyneema. Double braid Dyneema, okay. No takers on splices on double braid Dyneema. Yeah, I'll be in my basement for an hour and a half working on that. So, but anyway, that's coming together. If you put the shackle in the aft kringle on that headboard, it'll fit currently. So you can take the J80 out sailing. So I'll get that sorted. All right, let's talk about the quest. You'll see a picture, yeah, of that gooseneck fitting, that where it's broken there. I'll use the pointer right here where it's broken off there, had a pin in there that's holding a reef hook. And I've discovered that some people have been passing the kringle on the mainsail through the reef hook, or the ram's horn, some people call it that. And that is the incorrect way to do that. That reef hook is only for putting the dog bone at the reefing kringle. All right. So if you just imagine that someone has an uncontrolled jibe, how much twisting force is on that pin that's holding the reef hook if the kringle of the mainsail is attached through there. It's obviously snapped it right off. So $200 piece of stuff. We're going to wait 6 months for it to arrive from England. All right. So we can still sail the boat. We're just going to have to tie in a reef with a piece of line and a reef knot there. And it's going to be a little bit hokey, but we can still sail it. So I want to go through. We should all read the rigging manuals for all the boats we own. Okay, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, they make a book that's that thick, and they sort of want you to know all this stuff when you go sail the boat. So when you're do a full hoist, and on this sail right here, you have a tack strap that goes there. They don't show the hook in here, but you would not put the hook through this kringle. Do not do that. Just attach the tack strap. There is a slug that goes up into the left track in the mast, and then you're going to pass the Cunningham from the gooseneck up through this second up from the bottom kringle and down through a cleat on the side there. So that's full hoist there. If you have a reef in it, let's see here. I'm going to move the people on Zoom around here so everybody can see this. As you lower the halyard here, you're going to put the slug down in the bottom part of the track and the extrusion there. And then there is a dog bone or a piece of webbing with 2 rings on either side there. Then that can get passed through the hook that's on there. And then you tighten up the halyard. And then of course there's stuff to do on the clue there that you'll read about in the rigging guide there. So that is the correct way to do that. So I just want to, we're doing a really good job. Want to phrase is that we're doing a really good job taking care of our boats, and they're lasting a long time. People are doing a good job taking the sails and not letting them luff and all kinds of stuff. But we just need to work out this little detail on the Quest because it's sort of an oddball. We only have one of them. We're probably going to get another one. So we'll learn a little bit more how to use that. So all right. The other bone I got to pick on the Quest is the mystery of the missing out haul. So there's a pad eye on the end of the boom right here, and it's got two pieces of rope attached to it. One is a short black line that is the out haul. And then just after that on the pad eye, there's a longer red line that is the reefing clue line. And those always stay on that pad eye, and they never get separated from the mothership. All right. I've even go so far, instead of having a knot back here, we have spliced those onto the pad eye. So I've done more splices than I want to do. And the rope that was on there for the out haul, someone must have cut it off because it was spliced on there. So I don't know how this happens, but leave those attached to there. So I just want to point out in here that you're going to go from the out haul through the clue of the sail, back through the pad eye, and then you're going to put it right in the cleat on the, I guess it's the port side of the mast there. So that's the correct way to reeve that out haul on the Quest. So and it's a little bit different than the Vision. So we all need to know how to do that. All right. Okay. On our Zest, I got another thing I've noticed on rigging stuff, and where people haven't been reading the rigging guide, happened sort of right off the bat. Someone left the dock and they went right into the blackberry bushes on the lee shore, and their out haul was super loose. There's no way they could sail the boat the windward because the out haul was so loose. And it's happened a whole bunch of times. So I want to point in the rigging guide that this is a continuous loop of line here. There's another low friction block forward on the boom here that you don't see in the picture here. And this port side of the line has an elastic take up. And then, so coming from the hook right here that goes into the clue, goes around this low friction block forward, and then it goes into the cleat. So you got to make sure the starboard side is cleated off, and you can adjust that, as you get going or underway there in this side entry cleat. But it's that starboard side that's rope, not elastic, and won't stretch there. That's got to go in there. So anyway, cool. Everybody's doing a great job with this, and yeah, get out and sail with the Zest. They're super fun. It's like sailing a laser. I'm a little bit more toned down, and it'll be a great one for when we do our lesson for the 8 to 12-year-olds. So, all right.
Well, I got one more item.
Oh, you do? Go ahead, Don.
Just a note, and thanks to Brett for kind of pointing it out on the side here. But we had a big win over the past winter. A great victory. It was us versus the Otters. And with the dock boxes, and for those who don't know, those dock boxes were enjoyable for the Otters up until last summer, when Don Fleming led an effort to go ahead and get in there and paint them and reinforce the bottoms and put metal sheeting around. I guess we pissed off the Otters because they haven't gotten back in there. Now they've gotten into our coach boat and in our life vest. We're working on that, but we're keeping them out of the dock boxes now. So you should raise a toast to a victory over the Otters here.
All right. Cool. Any other announcements here as we finish up the announcements phase? So try to take a little bit while, and we didn't publish a newsletter yet this month. So eventually some of those will wind up in the newsletter, but to cover all that stuff. So let's talk about planning a Salish Sea float plan. So as far as I can, go ahead.
You're recording?
Yeah, I am recording this. So we'll keep this into prosperity I'm not pronouncing that. Posterity. We're recording for posterity. And so those of us that are keelboat instructors, when we go through Salish Sea, one of the requirements on your keelboat Salish Sea sign off is to a discussion on how to file a float plan. And it's this one sentence, but there's a lot to unpack there. So hopefully going forward, we can send people to the YouTube channel to watch that, and then we can have a shorter discussion on that too. So quite a bit to unpack here. So let me just get right into it here. A couple of, so sort of the history of this, when I joined the Sailing Center, I joined because we had a couple of keelboats here, and I was interested in cruising a little bit more than racing or small boats or all the other things we do. And I wanted to go out cruising, and it looked like an affordable way to do it. And so I wound up like helping fix some of the boats. I've been sort of involved in that sort of going forward here and everything. And so my wife and I did our first cruise, I think our second year as members, and we went down to Tacoma, and we went over to Gig Harbor, and we sort of went all the way around Vashon and Bainbridge Island for a week and had a great time and went to all kinds of cool places. So since then, a lot more people have gotten involved in cruising here. The Catalina will be gone for probably 2 months. It was gone for 2 months last summer. It was gone for 2 months the summer before that. So we eventually bought a cruising boat. So that's some of the history. So along the way, we set up some policies. And so we do have a cruising policy. I'm going to go through it because it's actually, when I went back through it, it's really well written. We've added a couple of things to it over the year. And the years, including we added some stuff this year to the cruising policy. So one thing is we just added this year because we originally said, well, the board of directors needs to approve a float plan. And then we realized, not half of our members on the board of directors do any cruising or sign through Salish Sea, or have been to the San Juans or to South Sound and stuff like that. So that got a little bit hard. And then some people planned some stuff that was a little ambitious and stuff like that. So we had to go send it back, and we sort of did that, wasted a lot of time as a board. So we added something this year that your float plan needs to be peer reviewed by at least 2 Salish Sea skippers before you send it to the board. And there's a timeline in there. The board needs at least a month prior to your departure date to approve a float plan, so we can sort of react to it there, because we meet on a monthly basis anyway. So we'll send it around and we'll just review it at our meeting and go from there. And it should be pretty well good to go once you've had it peer reviewed there. So, I mean, our whole goal is we want people's first cruising experience to be a successful one. And we're a little bit different animal being a community sailing center instead of a charter boat operation where we're sort of after your money. And yeah, you can have this great experience, but it's going to cost you a couple $1,000s. So, we've got some boats, and they stay moving and floating and working and all that stuff. So we've got some really great stuff there. So just follow those timelines. If you haven't had it peer reviewed the month before you leave, then you're not going to go. So we need that time frame to do that. So that's something you're going to have to think about. A couple of things: as skippers, they must be advanced members. They must be current members. They have to have their keelboat fees paid. They have to be signed through Salish Sea on the keelboat that they want to cruise on. Skipper responsibility for the crew and safety, all that stuff. Another thing we recently added, because at some point we had someone, we were like signing off the last thing, which was going through the locks on their way out on their cruise. And it's like, so you do need to be signed all the way through all the requirements on Salish Sea before you even apply for approval of a float plan. So keep that in mind. If you're going to do it this summer, it takes a while to wrangle the volunteers and because we're all volunteers that are keelboat instructors that can go out and sign these things off with you, and it takes time. Probably takes at least, if you're a pretty good sailor, it takes at least 3 sessions of going through this. So a couple of things on the crew: no single-handed sailing. We don't have an autopilot on our boat. It really takes 2 people to sail them. That the crew member should be physically able to assist with everything on the boat, And they need to go at least on a one-day orientation sail with the skipper, so they're familiar with the boat before they head out on the cruise there. So, yeah. What is
Salish Sea.
Salish Sea is, I'll define that here in a little bit, but what we call the Puget Sound plus the San Juan Islands and the Gulf Islands, that is the Salish Sea. Yeah. So there's a little bit of a duration. You get a week as a family with our household membership there. And we, of course, encourage everybody to coordinate so we can do some back-to-back trips, hand off the boat in Anacortes or Tacoma, or, sometimes everybody agrees, we're going to the South Sound this year. We're going to the San Juans this year. We're going to the Gulf Islands and we're going to hand it off in Friday Harbor or Roche Harbor or something like that. You can use anchorages that are good anchorages where the anchor is going to hold there. You can use maintained mooring balls. You can go to a marina. All that stuff is sort of fair game for your cruising plan there. Skipper and crew are responsible for paying all of the moorage fees. So here's me and Rebecca. I think that picture's Eagle Island, which is right between McNeil and Anderson Island in the South Sound. And it's awesome. There's wildlife everywhere because there's a lot of currents. So that's a state parks buoy there. And most of the skippers that are cruising that summer will each chip in 20 or 40 bucks or something like that to get the state park sticker for the boat for that season. Makes it a lot cheaper to stay on the mooring balls there instead of bringing your checkbook and feeding the Iron Ranger everywhere you go. So we did a little research on towing assistance for our boats. And as a community sailing center, we do not qualify for a towing insurance policy. So if you're a skipper, you're responsible for towing for groundings, engines failure, rig failure, flooding, all of that stuff. You need to call the towing service and pay the bill. All right. But as individuals, we can get towing insurance through Boat US. So might want to consider getting some towing insurance. I think Don, you looked and did the research. I think there were like $100-something a year or something like that.
Yeah, it varies between $160 or $200 depending on the level you want. But when you compare, I had that when I had a boat when I lived in Houston. But if you get caught out there and you need a tow, you can expect to spend well over $1,000 just to be towed. Yeah, even a short distance. So it's a good thing to think about if you want a little protection. $150 to $160 to $200 for a year. Good on any boat, anytime for you, but it's towards you, the skipper. So something to think about.
Yep. And so I was going to say something and now it's slipped out of my head. So I'm going to move on to the next slide there. I was going to say, we do keep our boats well maintained. Usually at the beginning of the season, everything works on the boat. So, and we try to keep it that we work really hard to keep it that way. So that's probably not a bad idea. So night sailing, we're going to discourage sailing at night, except for sort of some pre-approved circumstances. So thing with sailing at night, you want to do it in the middle of the ocean when you're not going to run into anything, or you want to do it in familiar waters that you've been to a whole bunch during the day. So things that we're going to approve are like taking the keel boats out for the Christmas ships parade. So you can see Mike and Julie had got the boat all decorated for the Christmas ships parade. So that's a good opportunity to do some night sailing and stuff like that. So if you're going to do it, we want you to do it, where you've been before and sort of get that pre-approved for a special circumstance. But when you plan your float plan, and we got lots of daylight hours in the summer and stuff like that, plan your trip so you're in your anchorage or at the marina, sort of well before sunset, giving you plenty of latitude to get there for all kinds of unforeseen delays here. All right, so here's our navigational boundaries. This is sort of a little bit the boundary of the Salish Sea. It's the, all of the Puget Sound down to like Olympia, the South Sound there. up into the Gulf Islands and sort of that inside passage and out the Strait of Juan de Fuca's, the Salish Sea. But specifically, our navigational boundaries for Renton Sailing Center are going to be west to Race Rock. So you can go to Victoria in our boat if you want to. And then north to 49 degrees north. We just sort of set it there because it seemed like not getting too far, but there's a lifetime of stuff to explore and all of that. So our insurance does not cover swimming and shoreside activities specifically. It covers liability insurance while you're sailing the boat and doing sailing activities and stuff like that. So you can do, of course, and we want to encourage you to go swimming and check out all the things that the San Juans have to offer and everything, but you do that at your own risk, liability wise, health insurance wise, and all that stuff. No, we don't. We're not a yacht club per se, so we don't have reciprocal things. I mean, you could join probably. They do. Like what was the crap hole marina that you were in?
Blue Tavern all over the. Yeah, amazing.
Oh yeah, there you go. I think you still might have to pay a fee or something like that. Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah, so you can research that, but yeah, we don't have any reciprocal agreements. I mean, the thing is, we don't have a dock to offer up for reciprocal, right? So, yeah. Anyway, this photo is the pool at Rosario Resort. So if you ever fetch up an East Sound Orcas Island, I always joke that I've never been to one to like go sail to a resort, but if you get to go there, it's pretty cool. They have 3 pools and it's sort of cool place to go. All right. Regattas are sort of going to follow the same navigational boundaries and rules, nighttime sailing, all that stuff as the cruising policy. So you're going to take the boats to a regatta. You're going to do that. You're going to the crew will be responsible for paying the regatta fee, any mooring fees, stuff like that. So I think this is the last summer at the Puget Sound Sailing Championships. All right. Common courtesy is around all of our events. We put this in the cruising policy because one summer, I think I was teaching a class and, a member, he's no longer a member. We sort of like, you need to like straighten up your act, right? And he never did. So he finally left, which is good. But it's like, I'm teaching a class at 8 in the morning, 12 students, all the boats, the coach boat's going to be gone. It's like, I know you're leaving on your cruise, but you need to either leave after 12 o'clock or you need to leave before 8 a.m., And so class starts at 8 a.m. and, we're just going along, and all of a sudden he pulls up and he starts unloading duffel bags and coolers, and the students are rigging boats, and it's a distraction. He's dragging all that onto the dock. And then I was like, you can't take the coach boat out to go get the thing. We didn't even have a rowboat then. You're gonna have to wait, And then he said, F you. And he jumped in the coach boat and tore off, almost ran over one of those pilings. So anyway, going on, it was a real bad deal, right? And it was a huge distraction for the class. If one of my students capsized, I wouldn't be able to go out in the coach boat and assist them. And he almost ran into piling, bringing the keelboat back to the dock. Anyway, all his duffel bags and stuff got loaded. It's out of. All right. Okay. So we wrote this. Please just use some common courtesy, and think about other things that the sailing center has as priorities. It's not you going cruising is sort of down here compared to getting new sailing students going. So, all right. Okay. We wrote this in our cruising policy. We will consider exceptions to this cruising policy. There's Rebecca and Phil and Katie and Lauren. They all participated in the first stage of Race to Alaska a number of years ago, they did first stage. So it was in the navigational boundaries and everything. But the start was at night, like first thing in the morning, so they could get the right currents leaving and everything too. So we approve that for them. So oh, Tyler Wilson's here. Hey there, Tyler. So we do have a suggested donation, sort of because the boat's going to incur a little bit more wear and tear as you're using it sort of all day and cooking on it and all those things. So suggested donation of $50 per night for overnight cruising or regattas there. So, and the whole crew can share that. Ooh, there we go. All right. As you start to get into cruising, you're going to want to get some resources. And I'll pass them. I think some of them are getting passed around. There are some really good cruising guides. This one's really good. It's getting a little long in the tooth. I think it's been probably 12 or 15 years since it's got published. So some of the details are getting a little old, like phone numbers for marinas and stuff like that. Some of the marinas in here are not even there anymore. So you can pass these around if you guys want to take a look. You've got Wagner's there. If you like sailing to marinas and resorts and you like swimming pools and stuff like that, get Wagner's. All that stuff's going to be in there in great detail. If you like to anchor out and find mooring balls and do hikes at state parks and stuff, especially for the San Juan Islands, this is a really good book. The one on that book right there is the only one that's any good that's sort of recently published that like covers the Central Sound and South Sound there too. And that's still being published and everything. So if someone wants to get in the guidebook business, I'd probably take that over and update it and sell a guidebook. It could be fun. But this is a really good one. This is a recently published and on the San Juan Islands there. So you want to get some guidebooks. That's where you start, your planning process, during the cool places that I want to go and stuff. You can, go to Susha Island and stuff with everybody else. But if you want to get off the beaten track, then get your cruising guide. And they're going to show you details of maps of the anchorage. What's a good place to drop the hook? How many mooring balls are there here? What are the cool hikes to do ashore? Can I get ice at this fuel dock and stuff like that? It's going to be in there. So get those. You're going to want to buy some chart booklets. Someone's looking at the Puget Sound one there. There's a companion one for the San Juan Islands here. So those are going to be really important to have as you're planning here too. And you're going to want to sort of get a little slew of navigational tools. And I just have a book bag of stuff here. Let's see if we can see what's in here. But oh, and there's more stuff in here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I got notebooks, which are really good for writing down bearings, stuff like that. When is the slack tide? Keep that in the book. Hand bearing compass. I've got quarantine flag, maple leaf courtesy flag, dividers, charger for the VHF radio, parallel rulers, all the navigation tools you're going to need. So make sure you sort of get the collection of that stuff. If you take any of like your ASA, bareboat and stuff like that, all the stuff is in that textbook stuff you'll need there. So, and if you take one of the coastal nav class, or if you go through bareboat either with ASA or US Sailing, you'll learn how to do all this navigation and charting there too. Very important tools that you're going to want to get for sailing into Puget Sound. You're going to want to get tide atlases. This is the book for the Puget Sound sort of Admiralty Inlet South, and this covers Strait of Juan de Fuca, Strait of Georgia, and the San Juan Islands. This one's really cool here. So you're going to have, I haven't printed off my 2023 tables yet, but here's let's say if I was going to go poking around the San Juan Islands on August 7. August 7 at 8 a.m. I'm gonna look at plate number 1 in here. And then I can see what the currents are in the Strait of Juan de Fuca and around the San Juan Islands and in the Strait of Georgia. And you can sort of see which direction the current's running. I'll pick one that's there's a significant amount of current going through the San Juan Islands here. And you can see which direction it's going. You can see where the counter currents are. And this will really help you plan your trip. So I'll send those around with the tables there. And that's super important stuff to have there. Because, I mean, probably if any place there's other places in the world like Norway, you know, anywhere with high latitudes and narrow passages and stuff like that, you're going to have a lot of current, and it's a significant deal. Yeah. Yeah, even now, you still may not have internet for all the storage. Yeah, and we'll talk about some of the electronic resources you can get. So that the source data for all tides and currents are at tidesandcurrents.noaa.gov. And it's sort of a confusing website to look at, and I'll show you some other things that work a little bit better here. But here you can find, this is a current chart. There's a sine wave here, so you can see when this happens to be at Deception Pass, pick a certain day here. But here's 4 knots, there's 6 knots of current on the flood. Here's a little over 4 knots of current on the ebb there. So, and then you can see there's a timeline down here. You can see it in a chart format. So you can get currents for a specific day and see exactly what time they are there at tides and currents. Now, a great tool to have, and it costs you, I don't know, I probably send $20 a year or something like that for Navionics, and depends on the geography. You want all of Canada or just the United States, or do you want the Caribbean too, because you're going to do a bareboat charter. So I pay them a little bit each year. But Navionics, it's really cool. They've got the best tool is the one that's on your phone or tablet there, using the app. They do have a where you can see some chart with some basic information on their website there, and you can see all that for free there. But you can click on like this current here. This happens to be Agate Pass here, and you can see the current right then is flowing 1.7, and you can pull up some details here, and you can see that same sine wave again then when the current is flowing there. And you can then time your passage through Agate Pass. So you're not going against the current. You can go, so the rule of thumb on current is you can go with the current up to 1/3 the speed of your hull speed. After that, the current gets stronger than that, and you're going with it, you're going to lose control. So you got to stay going faster than the current there to keep control there. So your rule of thumb to keep comfortable is about 1/3 of your hull speed. So that's going to be no going with currents. It's more than 2 knots in our tiny boats. So, all right. Another great tool, it's a free tool that's good for planning your float plan, is called the Deep Zoom. It's free. It uses data from these are obviously NOAA paper charts here. It's using all of the current information that comes from NOAA.gov here. So you can see here Deception Pass, and this is a little out of focus, but that's like 6, almost 7 knots of current going out of Deception Pass. So probably not a good time to go, but it shows you in the arrows get bigger, and there's a slider on there, so you can sort of set up a timeline as you're going through the day, and you can see how the currents are affected there. So that's a cool tool to mess around with. you can do some stuff in there where you can set some, it'll set all the waypoints for you and it'll tell you, you can put some information about your boat in there. It'll plan your whole voyage. You've got, of course, have to fact check that the computer did it correctly and stuff like that. But it's sort of a little cool, but it can help you plan your trip there. So, called Deep Zoom. Personal gear, I sort of wrote a list. Our boats, it's easier to tell you what's sort of on there than what you need to bring. Just think of it as going camping. You're going to bring a pot, and you're going to bring a stove, and you're going to bring a cooler, and you know, cooking gear, a knife and a cutting board and stuff like that. The Catalina has an alcohol stove on it, works quite well. You know, it's a little funky, but it works. There's an ice box. If you plan on 3 bags of ice for 3 days, that usually works pretty good if the ice is pretty cold when you get it. If it's sort of almost melting ice when you buy it, you know, it's not going to last as long there. But you know, I just put a little list there. But yeah, think of it as going camping there. And the Ranger does not have a stove, but it does have an ice box. If you use the one that looks like a dorm fridge, just don't even think about using that one because everything you put in there will get moldy. Use that top loading one if you go cruising in the Ranger there and you want to keep stuff cold there. All right. Okay. A couple of expectations for getting your flip plan approved. Now I'm gonna hand these out. I've got 5 of them here, so take one if you want one. But that's an example of a week in the San Juans that Rebecca and I did last summer. And it's a super fun trip. And so I'm going to sort of go through some things that your peers are going to be looking at and the board's going to be looking at as you plan your float plan. If you have a day that's over 20 nautical miles, we're going to ask you, why does it need to be over 20 miles? You know, there's so much cool stuff to see between here and the San Juan Islands and the Gulf Islands that you probably don't need to go 20 nautical miles. You're gonna, after 20 nautical miles, you're probably gonna, there's no bimini on the boat, so you're probably gonna be pretty well cooked. You're going to get tired after that point. You're going to want to do other stuff like go on hikes and see cool little towns like Oldesbo and go to the bakery and stuff like that. And we don't want you racing to meet a deadline and stuff like that. So, and so here's a day that Lauren and I did. I just put it in Navionics. I used the route planning feature in Navionics, which is sort of cool. And it calculated that it was going to be 8 miles. All right. And probably in the summertime, the wind's going to be out of the north and we're going to be under high pressure there. So we were beating that day. So you take 8 miles, and if you're beating, you're going to essentially double that mileage there. So that then all of a sudden it's a 16-mile day. That's no big deal and stuff like that. But we left early, and the cool thing Navionics will do is you can sort of scroll through some days up into the future and stuff like that. And you can see what it'll mark all the places that it's showing you current. I think I probably didn't zoom in enough, but there's, I think, one here. So we left early in the morning because we have a little current pushing us to Matsmats Bay, which is just north of Port Ludlow there. And it's a cool little entrance there. And you get in this tiny little bay that's completely surrounded, and you're walking in these neighborhoods up there and picked blackberries and slept in the hammock in the afternoon and all kinds of cool stuff. So we had a great day there just because we planned sort of a reasonable mileage for that day. All right. So plan your sunset and sunrise times. If you click on the tide little buttons and open that up, and Navionics will give you the details in this toolbar. Can I hide the toolbar? How do I do that? Or can I move the toolbar? There you go. All right. So it'll show you sunset and sunrise times if you scroll through there on Navionics. So All right. All right. Let's, as you're planning your trip, you're gonna like figure out, okay, here's the week I'm gonna go and stuff like that. So this is the days I can get off from work. It's when it fits in with the other people that are thinking about going cruising with their calendar and everything. So figured out our calendar that we can go. Now we're gonna go look at the lunar calendar and figure out when the new moon and the full moon is. If you're lucky, you get your week around the first quarter or last quarter, and the tides are going to be smaller and the corresponding currents are going to be smaller. Now, probably because it happens, 2 times a month here, you're going to wind up on the new moon and the full moon. So if that happens, the gravitational pull of both the sun and the moon are going to cause these spring tides here and make the tides greater. So the tide is the vertical movement of the water, and the current is the horizontal movement of the water. We're sort of worried about both, okay, as we're planning our trip here. All right. Okay. I'm gonna move this toolbar again. I wish I could. There we are. Put that down there. Okay. Couple of things you see on here. Here are the tides here for the closest station to Matt's Bay at Port Ludlow. We can see that there's a negative 1.5 foot tide there. So we're going to think about that as we enter a shallow entrance here and a shallow bay. And then we're going to think about, okay, what is the tide when we set our anchor? Is it going to go down? Is it going to go up? Do we have enough scope out when the tide goes up? Do we have enough water underneath the boat when the tide goes down? Okay, so that's all a consideration. Now we're gonna look here, and it's hard to tell from the focus, but I think that there's a 6 foot sounding and an 8 foot sounding as you're going into Matt's Bay there. You've been there, right? Yeah, cool. Most awesome little spot in the world there. So we're going to think about those things. This is this negative tide. A zero tide is at mean lower low water. So you can see that there's a low tide here, and a low tide here. So you're going to look at the lowest of the low tides, because the next low tide is going to not be quite as low. So every other low tide is lower. So you're going to look at the mean of those low tides. And if it's negative, all those soundings on the chart here, it's going to be 1.5 foot below that sounding there. So does that make sense? All right. So think about the tides there as you're planning your trip there. And maybe you can go into Matt's Bay, but if it's a negative 2 foot tide and you got a 6 foot sounding going in there, and you draw 4 feet, are we going to run aground? You have nothing, no margin for error there, so you're probably going to run aground, right, and wait for the tide to come up. So probably not a good time to go into Matt's Bay. So we're going to be looking at that as you plan your trip there. Bridges. Have you planned, can you get underneath all the bridges and everything? I mean, at least going out to the Puget Sound, you got locks, you got to drawbridges, so you can call for openings here. This is one we went under. This is the Harstein Island Bridge, and all the charts, of course, are going to tell you what the vertical clearance is, and it says 31 feet of vertical clearance. Anybody know how high the mast is off the water on the Catalina? 37 feet. It's probably 38 feet now that we put an antenna up there. And so here was Rebecca and I going under the Harstein Island Bridge in the Catalina 27. It's got air draft of 37 feet. How do we do it? All right. So we wait. Yeah, Dawn knows, he's done this trick before. So we waited for a low tide that was low enough, because the bridge heights are going to be measured above mean high water. So you have to look in the what is the that big thick book called, I'll remember the name of it. It's the Coast Pilot. You have to look in the Coast Pilot. And you can buy one at Fisheries. It's about that thick for all of the Americas along the Pacific. And it has all this data and stuff like that. So it'll tell you what mean high water is in the Puget Sound or the South Sound there. And so that's where we looked that up and we did the calculation and we've looked at the tide charts. There's also current ripping through Harstein Island there. If we clicked on that in Navionics, it would tell us what the current is at that time. So we got to take that into account in that narrow passage there too. Now, got to also remember that the times for slack tide or slack current and high or low tide don't always correspond to each other. There's all this crazy bathymetry or the shape of the ocean floor and basins and stuff like that that make the currents flow at different times than the tides do. So they sort of correspond to each other. They're affecting each other, but the bathymetry makes it a little more complicated. So you have to look at the times for both tides and currents to do that. All right. All right. Oh, this is a fun one here. Okay. Pulled up a windy forecast for this time period, and it's saying that we've got sustained winds like 18, and then we've got gusts into the high 20s here. And the winds are going to be at this particular time out of the northwest here. And at the same time, we pull up the currents surrounding Point Wilson going out into the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and they're ebbing, and they're ebbing at like 4 knots. Anybody know what's going to happen here if we set sail from Port Townsend and start going to Lopez Island?
Maybe fairly heavy seas.
Yeah. Somebody's going to throw up 18 times is what's going to happen. All right. Because we've got current flowing from the southeast to the northwest. We got the wind out of the northwest here. So we got wind opposing current, and that causes these really steep waves that are square. And then they go bam, and you fall down in the next trough, and the next one comes quicker than you know it, boom, and the boat slams. Okay. So we don't want you to do that. We want you to know that wind against current creates giant speed bumps, and you may never get out there. All right. So I'll tell you a story about this. So we crossed the Strait of Juan de Fuca. We stayed in Mystery Bay, which is back down in it's back down in this little bay right here. Coolest place you'll ever go to. We went to there's a fort right out here, and you can there's a dock for the state park. What is that fort called? Warden, yeah. Coolest little place. So we did that, stayed in Mystery Bay, and then we left early the next morning to forecast for 8 knots of breeze out of the northwest. Cool. We're going to Lopez. We're probably going to be, sailing pretty tight, or maybe it was out the west. There'll be a reach getting there, maybe a little tight reach getting there. And so we get around Point Wilson, and it's just glass when we leave here. And the wind comes up, we set sail right about here. We get here. In the forecast, all day is supposed to be 8 knots. So we left on a little bit of an ebb here, so to get out into the Strait of Juan de Fuca here. And all of a sudden we get around here, and the wind comes up to mid-teens, and we put the first reef in, and we keep going out here. And then all of a sudden the wind starts going up to the high 20s. So we put the second reef in, roll up some of the jib here. So we got a little, not this much current going out, but yeah, my buddy threw up 18 times on the way to Lopez Island. Okay, so even though all the models for the forecasts aligned and said it's only going to be 8 knots, usually in the Strait of Juan de Fuca, you got a lot of things. You got a gap wind where, you know, you got mountains to the north, mountains to the south, and you got wind trying to squeeze through a gap there. You got thermal winds, especially in the summer, where the eastern Washington heats up and sucks all that cold air in through the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And you've also, there's a lot of pressure gradient in between those two. There's usually a lot of wind there. There's some other ways that you can do this trip over to the San Juan Islands. You can go through Deception Pass. You know, the currents there can be run up to 10 knots and more. So you got to plan around that. The other way to get there, you can go through the Swinomish Canal too. And that's probably the mellowest way to go there, but that's going to require a lot of motoring.
Yeah, we came back that way last year, bring the boat back to.
Just to avoid
Yeah, there was
a
higher
potential
winds out.
craziness. Yeah. So, all right. Okay, so this picture here, this is, I think, our second summer cruising. This is on our Ranger 24. You see the Gig Harbor there. This is early in the morning, and we're going through Deception Pass at a slack current. So, and here you can see, I just picked a similar day. Let me move this toolbar around here again. There we go. So you can sort of see there's the sine wave here. So there's a lot of current, and right along this line is when it's going to be slack here. And right here, it's going to be rocking at 4 knots. Here, it's going to be rocking at a little over 6 knots here and stuff like that. So neither of those are a good time to go through there. We want to go through this narrow pass right when there's no current. So even just a couple of more minutes before the slack is still ebbing at half a knot there. That's fine to go through, you know, under 2 knots and stuff with you. And so it's like everybody was sort of waiting there. And there's this cool little island called Hope Island. So if you're on this chart, if you go right around over here or something like that, great, super place, nice short little hike, mooring balls and stuff like that, state park sticker. And we got up early, we timed it, there was no wind, and we just motored right through. There's no driving. All right. And has anybody been to the bridge there and like looked over when it's really moving? All right, there's people take whitewater kayaks out there. There's overfalls, there's giant whirlpools that suck down yachts and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so think about that as you're planning your trip there. All right, let's see here. All right. So I handed out these float plans. Take one if you want to study that a little bit more. It's got some cool stuff on there. It even has we did a little chart, you know, along this trip, you know, where can we pick up some provisions? Where can we pick up ice? Where can we pick up gasoline? All that stuff. So, and everybody's trip is going to be a little bit different, but it really needs to have all these considerations: the tides, the currents, the lunar calendar, reasonable daily mileages. Yeah.
Well, comment is you're looking at Rebecca's float plan from a prior year. It's like when you get to that point and you do want to go out and you're part of that keelboat group, you know, that's why we have peer reviews, but you can ask and get input from other people who've been cruising and say, you know, we're planning on going out, you know, what should we bring? In fact, one couple wanted to go out cruising, and we just did an overnight trip. One night out and back, or actually we did two over to Eagle Harbor, Bremerton Island, and came back just as an orientation for somebody who was going out. It's kind of a shakedown saying, hey, we're planning to go out later. So I went with them and we just went through it. So as you get ready for it, reach out to others and they can give you great input, give you great ideas, and look at their to bring lists and food lists and, you know, what to expect at different places.
Yeah, especially now that we'll have a boat over in Des Moines for the summer. There's some cool opportunities. Blake Island
Yeah.
is the coolest place you'll ever go to. I mean, you got to watch out for the raccoons there, but otherwise that hike is cool, and you can see the twinkling lights of Seattle at night and all kinds of stuff. And then I've never been back in Quartermaster Harbor, so maybe I'll, just for a weekend or something, that'd be easy place to get to for an overnight and anchor back in there. And there's some hikes and stuff and a cool little park and everything back in there. So all right, we've got also have some other folks that have been out there doing this. So any comments or other things I might have missed?
Well, I think as part of the float plans, you'll notice there's, backup plans.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's important to have an alternate anchorage or two. Should your plans not go as planned. Last year, Julie, we were on one island just checking it out, and we went for a little hike and she got stung by about 4 or 5 bees and swelled up, and we ended up not going to our next lake. We did an adjustment and stayed there instead of going to Susha. And so sometimes you have to understand what's going on with the tides, currents, if you do end up needing to stay somewhere, or an alternate, whether it be weather. So.
Oh, yeah, that's I mean, we can plan ahead for tides and currents, right? We can plan ahead for a reasonable daily mileage. And then you mentioned a key thing I forgot to was, what are those places sort of along the way that we could stay at, and with some reasonable daily mileages and stuff like that. If there's fog all day, that happens even in the summertime here. We don't have radar, we've got a horn to blow and stuff like that. And we got our ears and stuff like that. And we got a compass if you want to deal with all that, but you probably want to stay put that day. And then, maybe cut off part of the trip, or do a catch-up day or something like that, and you've got a little bit of flexibility to do that. So yeah, Janice.
Yeah, I remember.
Shops.
One of the things they said was that for whale sanctuaries, and they're not on the American charts or Canadian, and they have them like by Victoria. You go into those bodies of water.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember Rebecca and I were in this, I think it was up on our trip into San Juan. Here, I'm going to go back to the photo right at the beginning, I think, of this. Oh, here it is. This anchorage here was super cool. This is it's just west of Susha Island, Matia Island. Coolest place I've ever been. And there's room for 3 boats in this anchorage right here. And there's a lot of current that runs through the anchorage here. But it is the most northwest piece of land in the lower 48. Whatever, it's sort of cool. It's a very corner, right? And so that was a fun place to be, but then you sort of hear the VHF traffic and stuff like that coming from Canada there. You're close enough, and they're yelling at boats over the VHF radio. The Canadian Coast Guard was. And so the place you sort of look up those details, Canada has it too, but the United States Coast Guard publishes a notice to mariners on a monthly basis. It'll have things like, okay, they're between here and the Puget Sound, they're working on the 520 bridge. This place you normally go under the bridge is closed, right, for this construction and stuff like that. You're going to find that in what's called the notice to mariners. And Canada will have the same thing, and they'll list where the whale sanctuaries are designated at that time there too. So does anybody done enough sailing in Canada to know what they're called, their notice to mariners? Or is it, all right, you'll have to futz around on Canada's website there too. That's a whole nother discussion, is getting through customs and stuff like that, but that's on the checklist, yeah.
Yeah, I remember last year when we took the lessons, they also remind us that try not to cross the border in the middle of the ocean. And if you cross it, you need to check in with the Canada customs. It's
Yeah.
not just like you can cross over and then you sneak back. So.
Yep, and they'll track you on radar. Our boats, of course, don't have AIS, but if you got AIS, they'll definitely see you there too. And especially during COVID, when the border was closed, or people would ghost their AIS and sneak into Canada. And there were people with binoculars that lived there, you know, that would like report them to the Coast Guard and stuff like that when they sailed into Canada, you know, they're not following the rules. So yeah, and especially like around Mattia, we were like super close to the Canadian border. I mean, you could just see Saturn Island right there. It's super beautiful. So yeah. Cool. We're going to put some wraps on this here. So I got one more little slide as announcements here, and then feel free to stay and ask more questions and stuff like that. And of course, I'm going to try and get all my books back here too. Oop. Oh, here we are. Next couple of meetings. Let me move that so everybody can read that. Next meeting on, they're always we usually shoot for the fourth Wednesday of each month. Sometimes there's exceptions, but summertime, we do all our meetings out on the dock instead of here in the hall, make it a little more exciting. June 28th, we're going to be doing RS Venture orientation sales. So by the way, our smaller boats that are either keel boats or centerboards, we have an orientation sale, and then there's a little more in-depth checkout for the larger. They're actually small keel boats, but the larger keel boats. We're doing orientation sales on June 28th on that boat, and then open sailing because, you know, can take 3 people out at a time on the venture there. July, we're doing a barbecue potluck. You know, we'll be doing burgers and providing burgers and fixings, but people are welcome to bring sides and stuff like that to sort of flush that out a little bit. We'll be doing a new member orientation at that point. So probably all the questions you covered with me with on the way in here, we'll cover all those in detail for new members here, and we'll do open sailing. August, we're going to do a rudderless sailing clinic. So for folks that are shooting for their advanced membership, you got to learn how to sail without a rudder and figure that out. So we'll do a clinic on that, but there's videos on how to do that, and you can demonstrate that at any open sailing. So any other things for the good of the order? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, guys. All right.
Thank you, John.
Thanks everybody on Zoom. I'll let you cut loose here.
Thanks a lot.
Oh.